All right, guys. So what's up? We decided we're going to start a podcast. And so my name is Josiah Greer. This is my brother.
Samuel.
And so this is something we wanted to do for a while. And so we're going to jump into it.
Welcome to the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. Episode 100.
You're welcome.
Hello, everyone. And welcome back to
The Chiss Ascendancy.
It's episode 100.
100.
We made it. We made it finally makes sense. We made it. My buddy Caleb Hyman says that he laughs every time that it's a random, like, all right, 78, we made it. So there you go, Caleb. That one's for you. 100 episodes. Cue the Ewok horns. Cue the boss Nass. Peace. Now I've made more work for myself. So anyways, guys, we have made it to 100 episodes of the one and only Chiss Ascendancy podcast. And it has been long coming, and we've gone through all kinds of different stuff. And it's so crazy that the world would work in such a way, or the force, or whatever you want to call it, it would work in such a way that Samuel moving, job changes, different things where we took short breaks and stuff like that. We've kept the activity going with different shorts and things throughout the years. But episode-wise, full-length, long-form content, we arrived at 100 episodes right when the Grand Admiral would make his live-action appearance.
What are the odds, man?
Yeah, I'm soaked on it.
Incredible.
And so
never tell me the odds.
Yeah.
Right.
So here we go. We're 100 episodes in, never telling us the odds. We made it. And so here's what we're going to do. For those of you listening, we're going to do kind of a, we're not going to rush it, but we're going to do a review of Ahsoka parts 6 and 7. And we're kind of going to, we're going to shoot a little bit from the hip here, kind of like the old days, whenever we just be on the way to the recording session and be like, what about Tuskens today? We're going to be a little bit more from the hip today. And so we're just going to review 6 and 7 back to back and kind of get all of our thoughts out there as if they were one long episode. And then from there, we'll transition into episode 100 celebration and just kind of looking back on 100 episodes of the Chiss Ascendancy. So, Adam, thank you so much for being here with us.
Absolutely.
You've been under the weather. I've been under the weather. We were without power. We were supposed to have this episode out like 3 or 4 days ago. And
I'm doing just fine. Thanks for asking.
Samuel's,
I'm fine, sir, but you didn't ask about me.
Samuel's been holding down the fort. So Monday night, electricity issues at Adam's house. Tuesday night, I felt like death. Wednesday night, here we are. Thursday night. What freaking day is it? Is it Wednesday? Is it Thursday?
It's Thursday, buddy.
God bless. Okay.
I've just been sitting AFK in DMZ trying to unlock the battle pass so I can get that spawn skin I paid money for. That's all I'm doing, buddy.
Oh, yeah. So here we go. Jumping right into Ahsoka Part 6. It was an episode that is titled very appropriately called Far, Far Away. It's a 10. I'll go ahead and jump in there. And so, man, 2 of the episodes of live action Star Wars, Clone Wars, anything Star Wars related, animated or live action, episodes 5 and 6 of Ahsoka were 2 of the greatest episodes of Star Wars we've ever gotten, ever. And it was so cool because I saw that tweet. I can't remember if one of you sent it or if I saw it myself or whatever, but it was saying that if you're a Clone Wars fan, episode 5 was the greatest Star Wars you've ever seen. If you're a Rebels fan, episode 6 was the best thing you've ever seen. Yeah. And it's even better if you love both. Right. And I think we're all kind of in that boat there. So, gentlemen, give me your thoughts on episodes 6 and 7 of Ahsoka.
Adam, take the lead, my friend. It's been a while since we've heard your sage advice, your sage input.
7 threw me through a loop on a couple points. I'm Balin's throwing this power surge around for the planet, and it's one thing that's kind of got me thinking which way is old Dave taking this, because there's several ways it could go, but I know Dave's got his ways. Mm-hmm. So, but I'm very intrigued on that. Between that, the continuous lightsaber battle between Balin and Ahsoka, I mean, it just, I don't know, it just keeps getting better and better.
How thug was it when he's like, "You can't win"?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not taunting, just matter of fact, very confident. It's like, you can't win. You know that.
You don't stand a chance. Yeah.
What a thug.
And she's just like, I don't have to.
Yeah. It's cool because you see how powerful Balin is, but then you also see how much Ahsoka has grown as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
And how much she takes after Anakin in that regard. Yeah. Well, I guess, I don't know, this kind of reminds me more of Obi-Wan, but in like the old Clone Wars when Obi-Wan's just kind of BSing with the CIS general, basically killing time, waiting for freaking all the other troops to get into position. You remember that?
Right.
Oh, hilarious.
Yep. It's with that guy that's kind of like a warthog looking dude, right?
Yeah.
The blue guy?
Yeah.
So kind of jumping in, and I'll give like a real quick 1-minute synopsis of 6 and 7, but
I didn't get to give my input yet.
Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Can we talk about how everybody just won't take their lightsaber back anymore? What the frick is this? Let's go back to frickin' episode 3. Obi-Wan's getting his lightsaber back from Cody, who's about to try and take his life, but he takes it. He's not an idiot. He sees a lightsaber. It's being handed to him. He takes it. I would go out on a limb and say that Obi-Wan Kenobi is far more connected to the Force than Ezra Bridger ever has been. And he still took his lightsaber back. And that's just humility to me. I just would like to see a Jedi offered his lightsaber back and take his lightsaber back. That being said, episode 6 was phenomenal. It's everything I could have ever hoped for. It's everything I ever wanted. Yeah. I think that is my input. I currently can't see either of you guys, so I don't know if you can hear me or not.
But I can hear you.
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful.
Yeah, you cut out there for a second, but we're good. It's all good in post. So basically, going into 6, we hadn't seen Peridea yet. We didn't know what was going on, and we get there, and the Night Sisters. This is like the original Night Sister crew, and they're called the Sacred Mothers, if I'm not mistaken. And they are where the Night Sisters are originally from. So our whole understanding, we've known that the Night Sisters were from Dathomir, the homeworld of Asajj Ventress, Mother Talzin, Darth Maul, all those guys. And it turns out that originally, like way back in the past, they're from Peridea. And Peridea is this place that's kind of
Peridea
been
close, when we're on Dathomir.
So apparently, and this kind of plays into what Adam was talking about earlier, where somewhere down the line, it got so crazy on Peridea that the Jedi kind of turned it into a mythological place. It's going to be a long night for the Peridea jokes.
It's Peridea funny.
Oh my God.
It's
I'm
too
pretty
easy.
done with those.
See, you're liking it.
Oh, too easy.
You can't beat them, join them.
We get there, and long
Rest
story
is
short,
on this side.
You've got the God dang it. We've got the Sacred Mothers. Come on, guys. We get the Sacred Mothers, and then you have Morgan Elsbeth, who has found the route, she did her part, which props to her. And then Balin and Shin are there, and then of course you have the worst Mandalorian of all time, Sabine, is there as well.
You hate her too. I can't stand her. I don't know if it's just me. Maybe it's like a personal fixation. I everything she does, I hate it.
Okay. So wait, do you hate Sabine in general, like her character?
I think so.
Or do you not like the actress, or what?
No hate to the actress. I hate Sabine.
Samuel's hated Sabine since Rebels.
Okay.
I just can't stand her. I don't know what it is. She rubs me the wrong way.
I like the storyline that they're tying in with Sabine. Like I like the way that they're connecting things, but I'm not particularly fond of the actress myself.
So
that's my take on it.
Like, I've been okay with Sabine, and then when I realized that she made the machine that pretty much the Empire used to kill a ton of Mandalorians, she was like, I didn't know it would work with Beskar, and I was like, well, what did you think it was going to work with?
It's kind of like Oppenheimer. Have you guys seen that movie? It's like Oppenheimer's face when the Japs Sploder 9 million XD it gets used in Hiroshima, and he's like,
I thought it was to kill the fish.
Like, I didn't think you were going to use it.
That's so funny. So, yeah, I've had issues with Sabine for a while, and so, yeah, she just... Granted, I am grateful that she's so selfish that she got us to Thrawn. So they get to Peridia, and long story short, she's in prison. The mothers say that it reeks of Jedi, which to me is a loop-de-loop, because there's no way that Sabine reeks of Jedi. I think that Balin or Shin, one of the two of them, reek of Jedi. Whether it's Balin fighting the Jedi in him because he wants to do away with the past, or whether it's Shin because she's conflicted, because Shin clearly knows nothing about what she's supposed to be doing. She's just like, whenever Balin is explaining who Ezra is and things like that, she's like, you mean like me? I look like that. I wear that. And he's like, no, you're more. And so they're waiting, and then you see Sabine, who reeks of Jedi, quote unquote, and you're like, oh my God, maybe this is the time that she really taps into the Force. Maybe this other galaxy will do it for her, or whatever. And she's trying to open up the jail cell, and it starts to shake, and you realize it's a farce. It's not the door coming open; it's the place shaking because the Chimera has entered the chat, and it's flying low and close, and there it is.
When I say my jaw I was a mouth breather for 3 straight minutes when I was looking at it.
Dude,
and I was like,
and how cool was it? Because I was like, okay, and then
I saw the logo, and I was like, is it the Chimera? And
yes,
everything keeps happening. I was like, just in my living room by myself.
I was thinking so many things. I was like, okay, is he going to fly out on a shuttle? Is he going to fly out on a TIE Defender? Is he going to... And he didn't. He did the most Thrawn thing ever. He had a very eloquent and freaking cool-looking display of troopers out there, and he walked out cute with his hands behind his back, and it was perfect there. He just walks right across to the freaking platform, and he comes out there, and he's got his freaking shirt, and he takes his freaking shirt off, because just like I predicted all those years ago, the greatest thing to ever happen to Star Wars back in 1991, Thrawn entered the chat, and he comes forward, and he delivers the freaking greatest opening line in the history of Star Wars, and he says, what was once a dream has become a frightening reality to those that may oppose us.
Oh, what a thug.
I knew that I had arrived, and the good Lord could take me home whenever he saw fit, because my life had been complete.
He's so cool.
It was so freaking sick.
Do you want to know what I said?
It was movie level entry.
Yeah, it was.
It was more, and because we knew what we were getting and we knew how excited we were going to be, to me, it was on par with the first time that you see freaking Kylo Ren come out of the shuttle in The Force Awakens, and you're like, who is this? Is this Darth Vader back from the dead? Is it an evil Luke Skywalker? Who is it? We didn't know what was going on. The hype had been built up. We all spent $100 at Target the night that all the toys came out. The books were there. The Legos were back. And Kylo Ren had come out. And we didn't know who was underneath the helmet. And we didn't know what was going on. And we had a freaking chode. And all this stuff was going on. It was that level of freaking excitement times 12. Because I was so excited. And I knew what I was getting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Me, I said a lot less. 3 words. Dying Admiral Thrawn. That's where that's the first place my mind went.
So, as a man of my word, while we're reviewing the rest of these 2 episodes, I'm going to keep my shirt off because I said I would. Yeah, but I was so freaking stoked, dude. I mean, I cannot believe, like, you know, all those years ago, I was walking through Barnes & Noble, and it was the 20th anniversary of Heir to the Empire, which had to have been like 2011 or 2012, something like that. And it was a freaking giant book in a sweet silver dust jacket. And I bought it because I was so freaking hyped, but I was so intimidated of the story that I didn't read it for years. And then by the time I did read it, I went immediately to Half Price Books and got a paperback version so I could like keep it in my back pocket. And then I was so enamored with Thrawn and the Heir to the Empire trilogy that I would drop Macy off at the house that she was staying in while we were dating in college, and I would turn the dome light on in my crappy used BMW 325i, and I would read as I was driving to my house because I was so obsessed with the story and I wanted to know what was going to happen to Grand Admiral Thrawn. And
anybody tell you about Audible yet? Or
I found out about Audible right after that. So for Dark Force Rising and The Last Command, I had Audible. But I was so freaking stoked. And I remember way back in the day, this is a shout out here. I remember there was Dash Star. He was like one of the first cool Star Wars YouTube pages whenever Star Wars Theory and Star Wars Explained were first getting started back there in like 2014, 2015. And he would always open up his videos with, "Greetings, exalted ones. My name is Dash." And he had a freaking Australian accent, and he would put his lightsaber up to the freaking camera. And that's how he started every video. And he was doing a reaction to the Rebel Season 3 trailer. And you hear the freaking, what's the freaking instrument I'm thinking of? Not the piano, the freaking, come on, Samuel, you're a music guy.
I don't know what
the music that plays when Thrawn comes on screen
that you're referring to. I don't know. I assume it's horns. It's John Williams.
The organ stuff is going on, and you hear Lars Mikkelsen for the first time. To defeat an enemy,
he does
you must
so
know
good,
them.
dude.
And it was the first time you heard him as Thrawn because it was the animated reveal for Rebels Season 3. And I made fun of him at the time, and now I identify with it heavily, especially after the Kylo Ren seeing Han Solo in Episode 9 moment. But this guy starts ugly crying, and he goes, and with his cool Australian accent, he goes, "It's Thrawn!" And I was so freaking hyped, and I was having that freaking moment last Tuesday night.
I was very excited.
You know, we all were pining for Benedict Cumberbatch, or
that would have been cool. But I think what we've got right now is perfect.
What we have right now is a gift from the gods in the form of Grand Admiral Thrawn as Lars Mikkelsen. Just hearing him talk about Thrawn in the little interviews and stuff that Star Wars Channel put out was so sick.
I love how much he loves Thrawn. I think that's the biggest.
Yeah.
That's the biggest endearment that I can have towards him, is hearing him talk about Thrawn and appreciate all the nuances that I think are maybe lost on a lot of people right now.
Yeah, he definitely admires him. He was like, "He's always 7 steps ahead. He's like an eel." And I was like, "Oh, he's like an eel. He's so smooth." And he said something that was so interesting that I sent to you guys, and I posted in the story and things. But he said he doesn't have the dark side of the Force, and evil is not a part of him, but he's willing to use evil to achieve his goals. And I was like, what are you saying, Lars Mikkelsen?
When he's saying he was able to align with the dark.
We've been right for the last 5 years?
That was cool.
Whatever it takes to protect the Chiss Ascendancy.
Yeah. Big fan. Big freaking fan.
So what are you guys going to do the first time that he ever says the Chiss Ascendancy on screen?
Oh, buddy.
Are you just going to explode all over the wall?
I will be running down my street naked.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm a man of my word. My shirt's off. So you're up, Adam. Send it to the chat. It doesn't count. But
Yeah, we'd have to make a exclusive content page for that.
we post to Patreon once. $100. Dude, but it was so sick. And Thrawn was just perfect. And Enoch was amazing. And there's so much going on.
I was a big appreciator of all of the little lore that, Dave, he's big fan of different mythologies and all that kind of stuff. And that's kind of what drew George Lucas's eye. So it was really cool to see him draw some of those things into this episode. I mean, it's what else are we expecting? But very cool.
Yeah, very exciting. And it's crazy because you have like Thrawn and his style of people that look Persian almost. And then you have the Night Sisters or the Night Mothers, and their magic is very like something from the Greeks. Like you pointed out that it's like the all-seeing eye type of thing.
Yeah, it would be the fates. So it's the three sisters that basically control and see fate. So I think that is probably something to do with how perceptive they are as far as, being able to sense Ahsoka coming through hyperspace. And Ahsoka is a powerful Jedi, but she's not, I wouldn't say she's awake in the Force like a Luke Skywalker or a Yoda. But they're still able to sense that, even at a great distance and at a great velocity. I think maybe that's, while we're trying to kind of crucify Sabine, I think she may have had enough of a connection with the Force for that type of individual to be able to peg that. You know what I mean? I think maybe that they were talking to her, but I've been wrong before. I'm willing to be wrong again if it means something cool out of Balin's skull. But yeah, very cool there. Or I think maybe because Dave's kind of like an implied message kind of guy. There's that you and I have talked a lot about this for different reasons, but that kintsugi, that repair technique. So the Japanese would, if they had a piece of fine dining, like a plate or a vase or something, and it is shattered, it was typically made of porcelain, they would repair it with a fine metal like silver or gold or platinum, that would inherently increase the value of that piece. And so looking at how the Chimera and Thrawn's, what he's calling them, night soldiers or night troopers, I feel like that's kind of a message within the story that they're coming back and they're repaired and they're, the Imperial remnant, very much in name and in deed. And for that sake, they're a lot more valuable than what they would have been before they were lost. So I think that that's kind of cool. And, just seeing all the little, bits and pieces. Like I told you with Enoch, I thought I would never see a cool original helmet again. One that I was like, oh, wow, I would never have thought that before. So to see something like that, was very cool.
Absolutely.
And you and I have kind of gone back and forth about what that design might look like. I've seen some people say that it's modeled after the faces of the Night Sisters to kind of pull back in a relation to their magic. So, a lot of pieces up in the air, but I think that I always just really enjoy the little tidbits that you get if you are familiar with different world cultures and mythologies and stuff like that Dave always pulls in.
Right. And it's crazy because especially in part 7, you've got, Balin and Shin, their last names, Skoll and Hati, are from Norse mythology, and they're two wolves that one chases the sun, one chases the moon. And then we see all of a sudden a parting of the ways in part 7.
Mm-hmm.
And it all kind of starts with Balin seeking something more in part 6. And he talks about there's a power out there. Can't you feel it? Is it possible that there's something more powerful than they are? Because it makes sense that like Thrawn would be in a hurry to get back to the galaxy that he knows, just because he wants to get back and see what's going on with the Empire or see what's going on with the Chiss or whatever. But there's also an urgency for them to get out. And I was thinking about this too, guys, is like, the movies kind of do a disservice to the Empire in a sense that they kind of look silly and easily beatable just because the plot armor of the original trilogy. But in the grand scheme of things, this army took over the entire galaxy and held it down for 20 years. And so they're pretty regimented. They're pretty strong. They have a very Roman style of discipline and like legions and just different terminology that George has used over the years, or Nazi regimes, things like that he kind of pulled from when he was designing the Empire. So that being said, Thrawn says that their numbers are dwindling and they need to only send 2 squads to go to support Balin and Shin when they find Sabine and Ezra and yada, yada, yada. I don't see like the Peridia version of the Tuscans, those nomads that were out there attacking people. I don't see them being strong enough or violent enough or dangerous enough to take out whole squads of stormtroopers. There's something out there the Night Sisters and Thrawn even and the Imperials are worried about. Do you think that those things and whatever Balin is hearing or looking for are one and the same? Or what do you think is that's causing these numbers to dwindle? And do you think we'll see it before season 1 or part 8 of this show is out? What do you think? There are 2 things. Do you think those things are connected? Do you think the numbers just dwindle because there are only one? Because you have to think a Star Destroyer of the Chimera size doesn't have a couple hundred troops. Like there's thousands and thousands of people on those ships.
Right.
So what is it that it
not
seems
all of them
like
troopers? Some engineers,
right.
Helmsmen, stuff like that.
But more troopers than can fill that one hangar bay.
Yeah, probably. I think it could be Thrawn doesn't seem to be running away. He seems to be running towards. I don't think Thrawn, being the person of necessity that he is, would necessarily even take time to load up cargo. Although the fact that he is delaying this very, very, looked forward to journey just to load up some cargo gives me question as to what that might be. That's very curious. I don't know. I think about, like, for instance, when we played through Battlefront 2 and we have the 501st, or it's not the 501st, but they're on Felucia, right? And they're just talking about what hell it was to be on Felucia and how they were like, just losing people to the environment and how hostile it was. And, I think being new anywhere, they had, absolute nothing to go on as far as where they would end up or how to prepare for the environment. So I think, it's the fact that it's combined over several years. It's the fact that they have no reinforcements. So if somebody dies, they're dead. You know what I mean? They're not going to ship in a new guy to come take over that role. You know what I mean? So I think it's a combination of things. And it seemed like they still had close to full capacity running the Chimera, which, there's a lot of theories about how that might be as well. But I don't know if Thrawn is necessarily worried about that as much as Balin seems to be the only one. I mean, even Ezra hasn't talked about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you got to think about it. Thrawn for sure said their numbers were dwindling.
Right.
So there's not a full crew on the Chimera. We know that.
And what I'm saying, that you can be dwindling. I feel like dwindling is almost a relative term in the sense that there's just not reinforcements. So if you don't have an infinite supply of something, it becomes much more precious. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I don't know. Just the way that he said it, and you could be right. The way he said it struck me as, whenever you get your birthday money and you're like, this is so much money. This is $100. I can go do whatever. And then when you get down to your last $20 of your birthday money, you're like, you know what? A couple of bucks for a soda is too much. Whereas you'd be more liberal with it when you had your first round of birthday money. So it seemed to me like, I don't know, maybe you're right, but it kind of struck me as, I know that he's much more. You're muted, Samuel.
Sorry, I was just saying Thrawn hasn't had a birthday in like 20 years at this point. You know what I mean? Like, that birthday money's gone a long, long way.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I'm just right now.
But if that's the case, my question is, like, they're not just dying off for funsies. Like, is there disease there? Do you think that it's just the natural habitat? Do you think, because I mean, from what we've seen on Peridia, it's not a dangerous landscape perchance, like the howlers, which I thought were loath wolves at first. I was kind of sad that they were just regular animals.
That was too.
Yeah, I thought that was.
You know what I mean?
Sure
like,
they were loath wolves
I don't
when I saw
think
their silhouette.
Yeah, I don't think that, like, for instance, I don't think it's those raiders that you see that first try to attack Sabine that Shin and Balin end up using, because if you go back to episode 4, like A New Hope, meaning the original episode 4, whenever the Tuscans, it's made to look like the Tuscans killed the Jawas, but it was clearly the Imperial
blast points are far
stormtroopers.
too accurate. Yeah, I mean, you lose 1 or 2 at a time, but over the course of 20 years, you know what I mean? Like, they might not see substantial losses all at once, but, you know, you pick a few off here and there. You've lost a lot over a long period of time.
Right. I agree. And plus, you are right in the fact that Thrawn understands the value of every single person much more greatly than
Thrawn is the least wasteful Imperial,
jumping ahead
you're ever going to see.
Right. Yeah, jumping ahead to part 7, you kind of have a compare and contrast to when Vader's willing to just like let whole ships and fleets and whatever die in the asteroid field just to get the Falcon. And Thrawn was like, okay, I have the information I need, pull him back whenever Ahsoka finally gets to the Whale Boneyard.
Because Thrawn doesn't care about the kill. Cool. He cares about the end game. You know what I mean? And then you have Morgan Elsbeth, who's like, we lost him. He's like, I can see this as a victory. You know what I mean? It's just, he's not who everybody's used to dealing with. So I definitely think that everything he says is layered, in different ways than we would expect from any other Imperial.
Yeah, it's interesting because we're so used to Imperials trying to win every single small detail.
Yeah, he doesn't care about that.
And it was very interesting because it's kind of like whenever you first start learning to play chess and you're like every single pawn, it's like a pawn and a queen. You know the offensive power of a pawn and a queen, and obviously the queen's more valuable, but you're pissed off at every single piece. And then the better you get, the more you're like, yeah, pawns basically are just pieces that you move around. And if you're that many steps ahead, like, they're valuable, but if losing a pawn or losing a rook or whatever gets me to the end goal, then it's worth it. So he's so good at being, he values the individual, but if the resources, like if the juice is worth the squeeze, then he'll let it be. And it was interesting because like a guy I talked to at work, he'll be like, so what did you think about this episode or whatever? He was saying a friend of his was like, yeah, so they lost a battle to not my friend wasn't saying this, but a friend of his was saying, so they lost a battle to not take any prisoners. Yeah, this guy's a genius. And I was like, remind your friend that the goal is to get off Peridia and that they needed to load the ship and they got Ahsoka away from them and the ship is full. Did he watch the episode? And so it was just like,
well, and Thrawn doesn't care. He knows that even if they chase him down, he's got a chance to beat him any other day. Yeah. His objective is, we need time. Right. I bought time. We've got that time that I've purchased now, and it is time to go. He's got his eye on the prize. Thrawn's whole thing is we're getting off of here. Yeah. Yeah. And he said, and you know what I was thinking earlier too? I was thinking, holy crap, Balin Skoll is such a wild card in Thrawn's plan. Like the last thing I need is another guy that feels like he's large and in charge and also happens to have the Force and clearly is rough around the edges because he's a surviving Jedi. So why wouldn't I send him and his his gung-ho apprentice as far away as I can so that they're distracting Ezra, who's a problem. Sig being gone, she's a loose string, so she's gone. And these two freaking wild people that I didn't expect to be here are all gone so that I'm for sure in charge because the Great Mothers are on my side and Morgan Elsbeth's been trying for 20 years to get me back to the galaxy, or 10 years, however long. So it's like, it was so interesting that he immediately identified the pieces on the board and goes, cool, okay, so I don't want Ezra screwing up this plan again, so let's send Sabine, who thinks that we're keeping our promise, to go get Ezra to occupy his mind and his time, and then we'll make Balin and Shin feel real important by following, but it really just takes them out of the picture. And then he's like, whether they're here or not is irrelevant, because our job is to escape this galaxy. Like, it was just so clever that he immediately took all those pieces and was like, you go play over here, which played into, again, in episode 7, he was like, we wisely sent Sabine far away from here, which is where Ahsoka will be. So I thought that was really cool. And so moving into part 7, obviously Ahsoka arrives. She makes it through. Thrawn's just moving pieces back and forth on the board to try to get a feel for Ahsoka. I thought it was a cool shout out to people who had watched the Kenobi series or played Jedi Survivor or watched Star Wars Rebels to use the Inquisitorial database
for their info on Ahsoka. I thought that was a cool little
Pretty
nugget.
neat, yeah.
Yeah.
And then the news was that Ahsoka's master was General Anakin Skywalker, which was the most surprised Thrawn has ever looked.
Right.
But it's interesting because he immediately knew what the idea would be. Okay, so she's passionate. She's going to move on a whim. She's going to this. She's going to that. But she's dangerous and also unpredictable.
Unpredictable.
Yeah, I think the biggest danger for Thrawn is unpredictability.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's his nemesis. Thrawn, and Timothy Zahn, the original, Thrawn's daddy, has always said that. If Thrawn can see the pieces on the board, you have 0% chance of winning. It's the thing that comes out of left field. So in Legends, Thrawn was only defeated because the Nogri figured out that Thrawn had been poisoning their land to keep them in servitude.
Yeah.
And so his bodyguard, Rook, assassinated him. And then you had the Bendu, which wasn't foreseen, and you had the Purgu, which wasn't foreseen. And so, Thrawn, I agree, him thinking, crap, Skywalker / Vader is so freaking unpredictable. This is going to be an issue if they're the same.
Yeah. So I think it was very cool that he recognized
what
that.
do y'all, real quick,
we don't see Thrawn evolve a whole lot, really. He kind of comes out of the mold already done. So in the novels and stuff, you see him learn a lot, but it's very cool to see him grow in this respect of recognizing, okay, this is not good for me personally, and so I am going to adapt and keep her at arm's length and basically just keep her away from the situation, not even trying to combat her, not even trying to defeat her, but just you stay over there and I'm going to do what I'm trying to do, and as long as you don't screw that up, it should be fine. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah,
It's
that's
very
all that
cool to
matters.
see. Yeah, it's very cool to see him develop in that sense.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting to see, like, again, he's thinking outside the box in the instance that he's like, okay, well, what we don't want is we don't want someone screwing this up for everybody. And so his thing isn't that he needs anything from anyone. Like, he doesn't need to win. He doesn't need a prisoner. He doesn't need to even kill Ezra or Ahsoka. He just needs them out of the way. And he bought the most important commodity, which was time. And so, just so interesting. Real quick, what did you guys think of Ezra? Do you think that the guy looks the part? Do you think that he looks good? He kind of joked around in this episode, which I was like, oh my gosh, hurry up and get, I wanted the show to stay serious. I also want the entire show to be about Thrawn. And then, and then I remembered, there's actually really true to character that he would put his hands up and try to talk his way out of a situation. So I thought that was cool. And I agree on the fact that I wanted him to want his lightsaber back. Cause like, I'm sick of I don't need that, throwing it over the shoulder, all that kind of stuff. I wanted him to take back his saber and be a Jedi. But
staple gun?
Yeah, not that, not
just
the Obi-Wan doesn't count.
Right.
But I did appreciate how efficient he was just with the Force. Like whenever Shin goes to cut him and he uses the Force just to hold the saber in place.
It was cool. It was cool. I'm over the gimmicky, I don't need my lightsaber. Like, just take the freaking lightsaber, you prideful bastard. Like, who doesn't want their lightsaber back? It would have been
really cool if... Yeah, it would have been. I think it would have been cool too, because like, it would have been cool. Like, let's say, and of course, hindsight's 2020, and of course, I can write the show better than the writer after I've seen it, and I have all the feedback from all the. You know what I'm saying? I'm not being Dave Filoni here. Like, I know he's freaking George Jr., but it would have been cool, in my opinion, had he taken it and been like, I need to get back used to this thing, or I don't know, I'm a little bit rusty, or something along those lines of snarky of like. I don't know, it's been 10 years, and he puts it on his belt, and then he was bad to the bone with just his hands.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree, the moment of taking the saber back and being like, oh man, I missed this.
Yeah.
That would have been really cool. Or like, if he took it and he was like, yeah, Kanan would have killed me if you lost this, and then put it back on his belt, and then done it, because that would have been a cool name drop. It would have been cool to it would have brought some of that humor about that we still got in the episode. And it would have made it even cooler. It would have made his using just the Force even cooler if he had the saber and was like, oh wow, very cool, boom, puts on his belt and then uses the Force only.
Yeah, his use of the Force got a little less cool after he got immediately manhandled by Shin.
Right? I thought the same thing.
I was like, dang, that ally ain't so friendly no more.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So, kind of looking forward into the future, we haven't heard any word of an Ahsoka season 2, and even if it is, because there's these strikes and things going on right now, who knows how far in the future that would end up being. And also, I wonder what, like, there's been the rumors of the movie that's revolving around the Mandoverse, that Mandalorian and all this stuff is leading to.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think? Like, do you think there's going to be a season 2 of Ahsoka? Do you think, I mean, because here's my thing. I've been wrong before, but I feel like we're going to get to a cliffhanger of some sort where either they're just about to get to Peridia or they're just about to leave Peridia, because there's no way that if Thrawn doesn't leave Peridia and is not a threat to the New Republic, that's going to be a huge disappointment. That will be a waste if he never leaves Peridia.
Sure.
So, that being said, if he does leave, like even if he leaves first thing on in the episode, there's not enough time for him to cause enough damage to it be a relief that he's off the board.
Right.
So,
I wonder
in
if
my
it connects
opinion,
back.
it's going to end up being a cliffhanger.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I assume one of the shows in this little, powwow is going to have at least one more season. I figure it'll build up wherever that lands. I can't remember if Mando or Book of Boba Fett's going to have another season at this point, but I imagine that there's going to be a little bit more build up. I feel like there'd be a lot of homework to do as far as explaining the gaps if they just go straight from the end of this to a film. I could see them leaving this off after this season and just kind of concluding it in the film. Now we've got, the big bad established out, in the main galaxy, but then we have this whole complication with Balin. So I don't know what that looks like at this point. You know what I mean? I feel like that is a big plot point that should play a very large role in whatever happens moving forward. And I don't know how that gets resolved in either a movie or just one more episode.
So here's what I think will happen, and y'all tell me if you guys agree or if I'm close or whatever. I think that we're going to spend a lot of time next episode with Balin searching for whatever it is he's trying to find. And maybe we'll get a little bit of backstory on him. Maybe we'll figure out a little bit of what it is he's trying to accomplish. Mm-hmm. And I think that whatever that terrible force is will kill Balin in the finale. I don't think that Balin survives the finale, in all honesty.
I'd like to see him absorbed into it or something.
Yeah, something will happen. He'll give himself up or something, or maybe he'll try to be a conduit for whatever powerful being this is supposed to be, and his body can't hold it together or whatever. And if that's the case, then Balin dies, and perhaps Thrawn leaves Peridia, but whatever this evil entity is able to attach itself to the Chimera or to the Eye of Sion or whatever. And that's how this greater evil is able to escape Peridia and attack the galaxy that we know. But it's going to end on a cliffhanger of either they leave right when they leave. So this evil thing, what if it's contained to Peridia, but Thrawn gets through, and the big cliffhanger is, oh no, Thrawn really is back. What are we going to do? Roll credits. Something along those lines. It's going to be a cliffhanger of some sort, because there's not enough time for Thrawn to do a bunch of damage.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
So he's going to have them dead to rights, or he's going to have just arrived, or something like that before it's all said and done. And then they'll announce an Ahsoka season 2 at the end of part 8, or something along those lines. Or maybe Ahsoka and Thrawn will return in Mando season 4, or something along those lines.
I mean, I guess we'll find out.
Maybe a new show that brings everything together. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I doubt it'll be another series.
I agree.
I feel like 3 is enough for one great storyline, but
because Book of Boba was supposed to have a season 2, but budgets has cut that back, I believe.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see how that all shapes out, but I'm very intrigued. I think, we saw a little bit of a taper on, at least my personal level of interest into season 7. I know it's rated a little bit lower than part 6, but I am very excited for part 8 and to see how it kind of concludes and where it might lead moving forward. For sure.
And it's kind of weird because I'm torn. Maybe this is taboo to say, but I think Ray Stevenson did such a freaking fantastic job with Balin that if his character dies, it'll almost be like Heath Ledger, where I know the Joker didn't die, but the fact that was the end of the Joker and the whole Dark Knight was done and they release it and it was like an homage to Heath's great performance as the Joker. If Balin's story doesn't end in part 8, I of course want the character to continue, but I don't want to see anybody else play the role because of how great Ray has been.
Right.
And I really don't want to get into a whole motion cap, put Ray's face on somebody else's body type of thing either, which I know they're kind of capable of nowadays. So
no, I think that they'll leave that alone. Honestly,
I've thought about that here and there as well, and I don't know. I figure that changes the shape of the story at least a little bit, as far as what they're considering moving forward with that other plot line. But that remains to be seen, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree. You made the statement earlier about Balin, searching for that power and stuff like that. And, it may be one of those things where he finds it and it does consume him. And that's the end of Balin type thing. So which would be a great way to go for him because, obviously he can't make any more shows unless they do, digital effects and stuff. But I think that would be the best way for him to go in my opinion.
Because I think it would be, like, cool's the wrong word, but it would be fitting because Ray has done such a fantastic job. Like, obviously I was the most excited for Thrawn, but of all the characters I didn't know going into the show, or I mean, even I guess just across the board, like obviously I'm most excited for Thrawn and I think Lars is killing it. But I think of all the characters that have caught my attention in this show, including Ahsoka and all them, Balin has been the most like, what's he doing? What's going on with him?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he is every time he's on screen. So like, I'm obviously here for Thrawn, right? And then whenever Balin's on screen, I'm equally as invested. And then not that they're not good, but my investment or my like, everybody shut up, I'm watching this, kind of turns down a little bit when Ahsoka or Sabine or Ezra are on the TV. I'm like, oh, cool, here's our guys, here's our heroes. And then as soon as Balin comes on or as soon as Thrawn comes on, I'm like tuned in even more. But I really think it would, I can see it being like, you remember in Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull where the bad chick the whole time is like trying to find the source of knowledge, and she finally gets to the temple and she's like, I want to know. And it's like more than she can take in. I think if there's a power, because in the Aftermath trilogy, that last book, Empire's End, there's a little thing that comes out. And I wonder if I took a screenshot of it because I was thinking about it the other day. But I was looking up this quote, and it's talking about Palpatine, and let me see if I can find it. But basically, let's see. But there's a quote where Palpatine talks about something either on the edge of the known galaxy or somewhere in another galaxy, that he felt this source of dark side power that he wanted to explore. Man, I can't find this thing. Let's see. Anyways,
so there was two.
It's in there somewhere.
There's two theories that
I remember you obviously pointing that towards me. I do find it very interesting. Do we know where Exegol is in this? Is in like the shape of the galaxy?
It's in the known galaxy.
Yeah, I guess I'm just curious if it's like on the edge or on the periphery in some way that it would be far enough for him to be curious about it. But I do think that maybe they're pulling in that idea here on the the new galaxy. If you want, I don't really know if we have a name for it, but it's, I don't know. There's so much to unpack, and I feel like it almost demands a second season just because there's so much and it has so much potential and so much depth. I just can't see it all, coming to a close, even with a film after the end of this, this series or this season. Man, where's it going to land?
Right. Yeah, there's so much left. And then I don't know if you can hear Adam, but he was making a point right before you did. What was the theory that you were? Can you hear Adam, Samuel?
No, I can't. So I apologize if I've been talking over. You've been
No,
loading
you're
on my
okay.
screen for
You
quite a
guys
while.
have actually been balancing really well. But Adam, you said there was a theory.
So there's two theories that I've been, kind of, I guess, doing some research on, trying to figure out which way to go. One of them is a little bit far-fetched, but then the other one, the more and more we talk, is kind of become real to me. But when they talked about bringing, there was a Legends character, Abeloth.
Yeah, Abeloth.
Don't know much about that. Yeah, well, they talk about this theory talks about that, and they talked about how she was cast out into the maw, was like the old Legends. But they're saying maybe that they're using Peridia as the maw in canon. So she was outcast to Peridia, and then she's the dark entity that Balin comes in contact with and rips them apart, or whatever the case is.
Right. So in Legends, kind of for those who are listening, or even to kind of catch all the three of us up. So going into Abeloth, she was the main antagonist of the last series of books that was ever printed in Legends, called The Fate of the Jedi.
Yes.
So it's really cool though, because Clone Wars and all that stuff was already coming out by the time all that was written. Mm-hmm. And so the backstory of Abeloth is that she was a woman, like you were saying, Adam, that was somehow found her way in the maw, cast out, whatever. I can't remember the specific details, but she found her way to Mortis somehow. She was in a ship and it crashed on Mortis or something like that. And so she becomes the mother figure to the Mortis gods, right? The ones, if you will.
Yep.
And so we know the father is the balance. And in Clone Wars, for those of you who aren't Clone Wars fans, it's this place similar to the World Between Worlds, where it's kind of outside of space and time. You don't really know where it exists. Is it on the actual physical plane, or is it a spiritual place? We don't really freaking know. And the father is the balance between the light, which is the daughter, and the dark, which is the son. And in this vision or whatever, he tells Anakin it is his destiny to be the new father. It is his destiny because the father's getting older, yada, yada, yada. Or if he were to die, it's Anakin's job to take his place. And long story short, in Legends, at some point, a woman finds herself on Mortis, and she becomes almost like a peacemaker between the three of those, because you have a father, son, daughter, but you never really had a mother figure. And so Abeloth becomes that mother, but the problem is she's mortal, she's human. And so as she gets older, she's beginning into age, and she doesn't want to let go of this family that she's had on Mortis. And so the way that she can transcend that mortality is to drink from the font of power and to bathe in the pool of knowledge. And they're talking about that possibility, but they're saying basically almost like the Garden of Eden, like it's not for you, like you're not supposed to have this, right? It's very based off the Garden of Eden type theology.
Yeah.
And so like Adam and Eve, she thought that she knew better. And so before she can be stopped, she bathes in the font and drinks from the pool, or drinks from the font and bathes in the pool, whichever freaking one it is. She gets water from two places somewhere on her. And so it basically, but because she's not meant to have that, it transforms her, and it actually makes her this extremely strong dark side entity. And so during the legacy, or during the Fate of the Jedi series, it's really intense because Luke has to form some kind of really freaking shaky bond between him and the Jedi and this lost tribe of Sith, and they're all coming freaking together to defeat Abeloth. And there's like there's a shadow character that he has to speak to that ends up being the freaking, in the far future, is Darth Krayt. It's very freaking involved. And we could do a whole episode about the breakdown of all that, but it is a character that's way out there, that she just has a hunger to take over everything and defeat everything and to start everything over, and to kind of be in control and be almost kind of like a perverted version of that mother figure that she was, like to be in charge of everything. And so it would be very, very interesting if the sense that Palpatine was looking for, because he knows about Exegol. Like, there's no, by the time Aftermath comes out and all that kind of stuff, like in the Darth Vader comics, like he's already got Exegol freaking going on. He takes Vader to Exegol. Like, there's nothing by Return of the Jedi that he doesn't know about Exegol. He's been there. He's established. He's already got stuff.
That's a fair statement,
He's got his contingencies already in order. Like, he's already 3 steps ahead of, okay, if I'm dead, okay, then my freaking soul goes to Exegol. Like, he's already got that planned out. So it's not unknown to him. So what is it that's calling to him? And in Legends, Abeloth is the only character that makes sense to be on that scale of power. Now, some people are like, what if it's Nihilus, back from the dead, back from Legends, a strong enough character that can eat worlds, blah, 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 blah.
I'd be okay with that.
It would be very interesting, because if this, like, it still falls within the rule of the Sith, because you think there's only 2, if there's one that's a galaxy away that nobody's known about, you know.
I feel like there's got to be, and I think the containment of this Sith idea is that the Force doesn't give an F about your, preconceived notions of who. They were made. It was just groups of people that had an alignment, so that doesn't matter to me at all. But I think for the sake of this story, the dark side character, whoever, because we've already got so many people that are involved, it's got to be something more ethereal than literal. I think it needs to be something that someone can connect to,
a power source or whatever. Yeah.
I think it needs to be, like the Bendu, right? This incredibly powerful being.
Right.
He's able to interact with and manipulate, but he's not a player on the board, really. You know what I mean? He's more of like a power up. So we have, this call in this, or whatever you want to call it. I feel like it needs to be a source or an idea or something like the wills that we see that guide people and give them access to a power that other people up until that point thought was impossible. You know what I mean? Everybody thought that you couldn't exist past death, that you wouldn't be able to retain individuality. And yet here we have somebody interacting with this, group of people that are so aligned with the Force that they're able to guide you through this process. I think it's something like that. I don't see it being, a character, something that's, super concrete, but I think Abeloth, the idea or something aligning with that, is a potentiality. I don't know if it would be, something that blatant, but I do see it being something, this just something that's more, I don't know, something that's more an idea than something that's more of a being. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, because for instance, like to go like a biblical route, like in the Old Testament, Egypt was ruling the world and had the strongest military might. But when the plague came and the angel of death came to take the lives of the firstborn, it wasn't even something you could physically fight. It was just a plague that took place. And it's an angel of death. And we don't know if it's a singular character that looked like a human that walked around and killed the firstborn. In a lot of the movies, it's like a smoke or a fog or whatever.
Right.
And so maybe it's something like that, where it's more conceptual, kind of like what Samuel's saying, like how do you fight the wind? How do you fight, light and things like that. So maybe it's more like you said, ethereal, or almost
it's just
a disease. Like, how do you fight a disease? You know what I mean? Like, just something out there like that's, it's not just a mortal, flesh and bone type of character. I can see what you're saying.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So
I think that's kind of maybe where it's headed on that front.
Yeah. Well, there's so much to we could just go on for freaking forever, because we're just super hyper hypothesis drive. But so we're super excited. Episode 6 and 7 of Ahsoka were great. 6 was like the height of freaking anything for me. 5 and 6 back to back were just some amazing Star Wars. 7 setting up for what I don't even freaking know. Unless episode 8 is like 2 hours long, I don't know how they're going to resolve everything.
Give us a 3-hour episode.
Yeah, give me that's fine. That's fine. So we're transitioning, guys. We are celebrating 100 episodes of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. We put it out there to the listeners if they wanted to send in a note or a voice memo or whatever. And we've got a couple of those. We have about 9 different things that were sent in. So we're going to start And the first one here I'm going to start with is actually a guy that I work with, a buddy of mine named Robbie. So I've been working at my job down here. I work for Subaru, so that's pretty cool. Different cars and things like that. And a guy that's been with me this whole time, I've been there for about a year. His name's Robbie. And he's always like, all right. And what's funny is he calls me Big Deal from The Force Awakens. And so he goes, hey, Big Deal, what'd you think about the episode last night? And so he sent us a video, so we're going to listen to this video from Robbie real quick.
Happy 100th episode, Chiss Ascendancy. From I Am the DMZ.
So thank you so much from my buddy Robbie.
Thanks, Robbie.
Congrats.
Appreciate
and
that.
An amazing freaking radio voice. And so maybe we'll have him on sometime.
There you go.
And so we're going to keep them rolling. We are going to jump in real quick. And what we're going to do, guys, is after we read these or listen to these videos, we're going to do a real quick, almost like what we asked you guys to do. And we're going to talk for just a second about some of our favorite moments that we've had together, what the podcast has meant to us and things like that. We're going to try not to get too crazy with it. But this next is a voice memo from our buddy Joel, who is on Instagram as Radis Forstad, and he sent us in a voice memo. So here comes that voice memo from our buddy Radis Forstad.
Joe, Sam, Adam, congratulations on your 100th episode of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. Thank you for all the laughs, amazing info and content about the Star Wars universe over the years. It's been very enjoyable. Thoroughly enjoyed all of it. And whatever you continue to put out, I'm there for it. Been a listener since day one. Could never get enough. So, thank you. And here's to the future. It's your friend Joel, or Radis Forstad on Instagram, signing out.
And so thank you so much. Something that's really cool about having these things sent in is this one from Joel, Radis Forstad, is actually from the Great White North up there in Canada. And so that's pretty cool.
Was that a Canadian accent for you? Is that what that was?
I think I was trying to
The
be
Great
like
White
north of the
North.
wall, like Game of Thrones. I don't know.
Isn't it?
But yeah, so Joel's from Canada and super cool, super chill guy. Met him. I actually personally met him.
Probably is very cool.
Through the Fet Ventures page, because he's a collector as well. And staying in that vein, the next two are actually from fellow collectors. And this next video is from a guy named Joe, short for Joseph, all the way from Ireland. And so here's a video from our buddy Joe, aka Vance Armory. He's been on the show before, and all the way from Ireland. Here's Joe.
Hello, this is Joe, aka Vance Armory, recording on a lovely rainy afternoon in Ireland ahead of a massive storm that's coming tomorrow. So I'm recording that while I still have the time to do it. I'm recording here with some of my TVC figures in the background. Those are not all my collection, but they are some of them. The rest are in storage currently. But I just want to say congratulations to the Chiss Ascendancy podcast for its 100th episode. Joey Greer is a good friend of mine and a collecting and fan friend, and I have to say their contribution as a podcast to the Star Wars community is forever positive. I've been on the podcast a couple of times discussing a couple of different things. Hope to be on it again sometime soon. But I just wanted to say congratulations, and I hope you get loads more viewers and that you have thousands of episodes in the future, let alone 100. So congratulations, guys, and talk to you soon.
So thank you so much, Joe. That means the
Thank
world.
you, Joe.
We
Absolutely.
also hope that, Joe.
Yeah, we also hope for many more followers, many more episodes, and
Tell all your friends. I would like for this to be my full-time job.
Oh yeah, you're telling me.
Yeah.
So if you're listening to this, if you've been with us from the beginning, make sure you're telling your friends about the show. All right, we got a couple of notes here, and so I'm going to read these. These are just written ones. This one is from our friend Finn Clay, a.k.a. Finn Moon, and he is toy photographer, customizer, stuff like that. He's been on the show before, and we're going to go ahead and just read this note from him. It says, I've been a diehard fan of CAP, meaning Chiss Ascendancy podcast, since day one. Joe and Samuel have such a fun dynamic. Their mix of hysterical banter and deep, rich knowledge of Star Wars lore makes for a phenomenal podcast listening experience. My personal favorite episode was their deep dive into the history of the Tusken Raiders, which is also high on my list. I just love how they started with the earliest days of Tatooine when there was vast oceans and ended up talking about Darth Krayt's Sith Empire. You never know what you're going to get out of an episode of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. And so thank you so much, Finn.
Fair.
Always been really supportive of the show.
I don't know what they're going to get out of it when we start recording.
It's always a surprise for us.
Absolutely.
And also with you.
And the Force be with you as well. Yeah. And
with your spirit?
And with your spirit? All right, cool. This one is actually pretty cool. This is from a buddy of ours named Christian. I met Christian probably 10 years ago working at like a camp thing, and this guy is just freaking hilarious. He's also been in a couple of bands, makes great music, has an amazing voice, and a great sense of humor. And so he has listened since day one. Here's the note from Christian. It says, so I've been listening to CAP from the beginning. The first episode, I believe, was a review of The Rise of Skywalker, and much like heroin, I was hooked. The dynamic between Josiah... the dynamic between Josiah and Samuel is steak sauce, A1 in parentheses, the best one.
Nice.
Oftentimes, I actually get pretty stoked to hear the next Cap episode even more than the actual Star Wars show episodes. Folks like me who've never seen Clone Wars or Rebels or have read the books, I know, freaking shoot me all right, still like tuning in to learn about Star Wars from these guys. It's one of my favorite podcasts to listen to. It's always super entertainment. My apologies to Sam for suggesting the Jar Jar Binks episode way back, though. You're a real one for that. All this to say, I love the pod, and maybe for the season finale of Ahsoka, y'all can cook up some Thrawn-colored hot dogs, and eat them live on air or something. JK, here's to another 100 episodes. Keep it going.
A little tidbit for anybody who doesn't understand that last bit. Josiah and Christian and I are in a group chat on Instagram. What's it called now?
You're a Glizzard, Harry.
That's what it is. You're a Glizzard, Harry. It's changed names over the eons, just different hot. So anytime we see a meme, even closely relating to hot dogs, that goes in the group chat.
And so I want to also share this meme that Christian sent in the spirit of hot dogs and Star Wars memes. So I'm going to describe it for those simply listening. For those who are watching on YouTube, I'm going to put it on the screen. But it's the shocked Pikachu face meme, but Pikachu has been colored blue and his eyes are red, and it says, her master was General Anakin Skywalker. And it's Thrawn as shocked Pikachu, which is freaking hilarious. Okay, moving right along. This next one is very, very special. Our buddy and one of those guys that he's your best friend, but he forgets you exist sometimes. Mark Thompson, friend of the show. For those of you who listen to audiobooks, Mark does so many of the Star Wars audiobooks, and he's fantastic in every single one of them. Absolutely. I can't believe my first Star Wars audiobook all those years ago, probably 10, 12 years ago, was Legacy of the Force Bloodlines. And I loved his Boba Fett, and that's Mark Thompson. All these years later, we text from time to time and stuff, and he's just a huge fan of Thrawn as well. And he's the only character who's ever done both versions of Thrawn's voice. Yeah. So if you are an audiobook guy, if you get the Heir to the Empire audiobook, when I say guy, I mean folks. If you listen to the Heir to the Empire trilogy, his Thrawn voice is much more gravelly because Zahn wrote it as if he was a cat purring. That's why he said the voice had that low resonance. And so Mark did that voice and then adapted amazingly to the new voice when Lars Mikkelsen came on with Rebels. And so here is a voice memo from our buddy, Mark Thompson.
Hey guys, it's Mark Thompson. I was busy and couldn't come on the episode, but I did want to say congratulations on 100 episodes. That is so cool. And I just wanted to say,
may warrior's fortune smile upon you.
And so freaking cool. He even ends it with a Thrawn quote. And
yeah,
that guy's just a gem of a human being. So thank you so much, Mark, for shouting us out.
Appreciate it, Mark.
If you haven't,
and then this
be
next
sure
one,
to check out the episode that we got a chance to interview and kind of talk about, his background on the Thrawn changing voices. I was geeking out the whole time. I don't even know if I was coherent.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Super cool. And then, this next one here, penultimate. This is from a really good friend of mine, Mr. Skeleton Astronaut from Instagram. He's got a written note here. And this says, congratulations on reaching 100 episodes of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. It's a huge accomplishment, and I'm so happy for you. I've been listening since the beginning, and it's been an honor to contribute graphics and resources here and there. And he actually made the thumbnail for this week. And I didn't even ask him. He goes, hey, here's this, and I'll post it in my feed as well when you post. So, like, he's just that kind of guy he's an amazing graphic artist. For those of you who don't know, we have merch and shirts and things, and he has helped design all of those, and he's never asked for a freaking dime. He just does it because he's buddies with us.
Cool, dude.
Going back to his review, it says, I've always enjoyed your positive and fun approach to the Star Wars universe. It's refreshing to hear a podcast that's just about celebrating what we love about Star Wars without any negativity or drama. It's been great to dive into all corners of the Star Wars saga with you guys and joke and have fun along the way. You both have such a passion for Star Wars, and it's infectious. I always look forward to hearing your latest episode, and I usually learn something I didn't know about the galaxy far, far away. I can't wait to see what you guys do next. May the Force be with you, Skeleton Astronaut.
I have to say, I think my favorite thing the Skeleton Astronaut has done, there is this shirt that is a quote of mine that I said in passing and didn't expect it to get any traction, but it's been one of the cornerstones of the show ever since. And I was describing, jumping ahead a little bit to the next segment, I was describing Crook's hat, which was, I had no other way to describe it at the moment other than as the sombrero of the Orient. To elaborate on that a little bit. You can get your
sombrero of the Orient shirts here. Put a link.
You know what a sombrero is? The one that they wear in Asia. And he took the logo that we have that's, it's the Chimera pattern that's on the bottom of the ship. It's explored a lot in the new Thrawn trilogy. And I thought to myself, I was like, man, it'd be really funny if the snakes were wearing those hats. And then I looked a little bit closer and I was like, I'll be darned, they are wearing the hats. They're wearing the hats on the shirt. And I think that just that attention to detail is just incredible. I love that.
Yeah. And again, not something that we prompted him to do. He literally sent me a file.
He just did.
And the file said Sombrero of the Orient. And I clicked on it. And it was a freaking file that he had just whipped up. And everything he sends is quality enough that you can send it to a t-shirt company and it can just go straight on a shirt. And so when you guys didn't know, and I surprised you on air with merch, one of the shirts that I had bought right off the bat was the Sombrero of the Orient one. Okay, so kind of harping off of Sombrero of the Orient, our buddy Jared Grigg, who's been a huge supporter of the show, has even asked, like, hey, what do you guys need? Hey, what can I support? How can I support the show? Hey, what's something you need for the show? Because we've never asked anybody to donate money or even, we put the merch out there. If you get it, great. We get like $1 per shirt. It's not like we're making money off of it. We just want people to be able to support the show and rep it in public and stuff. And so, I've had people say, hey, what if you did a Patreon? That way all these shorts you're making, you make money off of them and stuff. And we've just never... We would love to make money off of the show. We would love for it to be a source of revenue. We would love to do it full time. Everybody does. That makes freaking podcasts wants to do it full time, right? But we've never made it a money thing. And he asked, "What do you guys need? How can I be a part of the show? How can I?" His terms were, "How can I bless you guys?" And we needed a second microphone, and he just bought us a freaking microphone. And sent it to me. So, and that's the freaking microphone I'm recording on right now is the mic that he bought for us. So pretty cool. He's awesome, been slammed. He's got a new job as a teacher. And so he's just been busy out the wazoo. He said, I couldn't get anything and write anything long form. Unfortunately, I'm overcommitted right now, but would you throw in two of my favorite moments? Number one, when Sam says Sombrero of the Orient, and two, Samuel gets both of them. That's kind of weird, but whatever.
Wow.
Yeah. It freaking
memorable.
Yeah, and Adam is family with this guy. Samuel, he said number two when Samuel says Nar Shaddaa.
No.
with the question mark at the end.
I'll go ahead. I'll do it live. We won't even need to clip. Here we go.
Go for it.
Narshada.
And then we're gonna wrap it up. Here's our last shout out. If something came in under the radar or I didn't see it or something like that, please excuse me, and I will hit myself afterwards. But our last one is from a huge friend of the podcast, one of me and Samuel's bestest buddies. Awesome guy.
He officiated both our weddings.
I've been all over the world, officiated both of our weddings. I've been all over the world with this cat. And here is our buddy Chance. We want to save him for last because he is just the best. And here we go. Here's a shout out from our buddy Chance Abbott.
Congratulations, Chiss Ascendancy podcast on 100 episodes. Man, I'm so excited. I remember when you guys were first getting ready to start this thing, I was like, how are you going to have enough content to talk about Star Wars every week? I had no idea. I didn't know who Thrawn was. I had never heard of the Chiss. And now here we are, 100 episodes later, and we've finally seen a live action Thrawn. Man, so much has changed. I grew up a Star Wars fan. I was a 4, 5, 6 guy. And I had seen 1, 2, 3. I was questionable about it. Didn't understand all of it. Had never watched the animated. But as this podcast has gone along, my fandom of Star Wars has grown immensely. Now, I totally see the prequels through a completely different light. That's what Clone Wars and Rebels does. And so I would have to say my favorite episode is probably the nod to the animated Star Wars, because I agree, animated Star Wars is some of the best Star Wars, some of the most Star Wars that we get. And so, but now because of the podcast, I'm into the books and the audio books and all the things. But congratulations, but thank you for pointing me to animated Star Wars. That is some of the best.
And so thank you so much,
That's
Chance. Huge plus, and I
praise.
agree. I think that animated Star Wars is some of the best Star Wars there is out there, thanks to David Filoni.
Mm-hmm.
And I agree, Chance, like it's some of the best of out there. And if you want to deepen your love of Star Wars, years ago, if you had wanted to deepen your love, we'd be like, well, how much do you want to read? And now obviously that's still a huge plus, there's audiobooks and comics and stuff, but just right there in front of you, you don't have to do anything for it. It just plays on the screen. Animated Star Wars will definitely make you a deeper and more appreciative Star Wars fan. And so thank you for everybody that sent something in.
Yes.
I know we had a couple of people that were working on it, couldn't get to it and stuff like that, but I have people all the time, and I'm sure you guys do too, that ask you when the next episode's coming out. If it's been a week or two and we've been a little bit behind, or if a new show's coming out or whatever. We've got a bunch of Andor to review. We've got a bunch of other stuff that we can still get to in time. Samuel's almost died over here a couple of times this episode. I don't know what's going on.
Stuff just falling, man.
But thank you guys so much. Before we get off of here, we don't want to make this episode a 2-hour affair, but
you know what? We're celebrating us, and what better way to celebrate us than to make a 5-hour episode? Do you know what I mean?
I agree, except for you're not the one editing this.
Yeah, not anymore.
But now that we're not talking about Ahsoka, I can put my I've been nipping this whole time. It's cold in here. Put my jacket back on.
Got some glass over there.
I would say some of my fondest memories of the Chiss Ascendancy podcast were just getting it off the ground. I mean, those were, I think everybody says that about their company. Like whenever you watch a Lucasfilm documentary, they're like, we were all young, we were hippies. But just getting it off the ground and starting the show was so much fun, and it's still fun. Like I'm still having a blast. But having those moments where we just were doing the freaking thing. And I remember when everybody would say, you should start a podcast. You guys should start a podcast. You guys should start a podcast. And Adam was even there. Adam was one of the ones that pushed us, hey, you should start a podcast. And so the first episode was me and Samuel in my dad's upstairs living room with a GoPro, because neither one of us had a camera, and both of us had iPhones that hadn't been updated, and the video quality would be terrible.
I think I had iPhone 8 at the time, and that was my new one.
Yeah, and we had a GoPro, so we set up your GoPro, and we just sat down and we talked about the Rise of Skywalker, and we didn't realize how much everybody was going to hate us for it, but we started talking about the Rise of Skywalker, and It was like 45 minutes or an hour or something like that. And we sent it to Adam, and he was like, yeah, I would pay to watch this show. So when are you guys going to start the podcast? And Adam helped us get us off the ground. And he would, one of my favorite pictures from the podcast is an early picture Adam took of Samuel's phone on the gimbal, and we're getting ready to start the show. And it's a picture of the screen. So it's like a picture within a picture of Samuel's phone. And, you know, I can't remember what the freaking title was.
That's right when Apple came out with portrait mode.
Yeah. And I was like, wow, this is freaking, what are you, a photographer?
Yeah.
And, but it was so cool. And it was like getting ready to start, you know, getting ready to record for the Chiss Ascendancy podcast. And I'm going to see if I can go back in time and find this on your page.
Here it is. It was my cover photo for quite a while.
Yep.
Yeah. That's a freaking sick photo.
Yeah.
Recording the Chiss Ascendancy podcast episode 4 this morning. This is February 7th of 2020. So 3.5 years later, recording Chiss Ascendancy podcast episode 4 this morning for YouTube, link in bio, and he tagged the page.
That was back in the day when you would still bring different Star Wars toys to every time that we recorded, ones that you thought were relevant to the episode. And you would spend maybe 20 minutes arranging them on the desk so they would be just so in frame for whatever episode we were doing.
It's called a passion project.
That's right.
But and we had posters. And I remember we were like, and we're going to do a different poster every time. Every, you know, however long we were going to do it. We
cycled them for what, maybe 2 months?
I think we cycled them once, if we did.
Yeah, right.
I don't remember
cycling
them.
We bought 5, and we just, you know, we would change them every once in a while.
And I'm going to just send that.
Kind of relevant.
But I mean, life was just like, I don't know. It was just like, the sky's the limit. And like, I still feel that way. I still feel like this is a great show. Sure. I still feel like it just takes the one right person seeing it for it to take off and be a whatever. But it was just so much fun to freaking start. And it's been so fun to watch it grow and change. And I remember going on, you know, if we go on our SoundCloud right now, it's like, you have listeners in the United Arab Emirates, and you have viewers in Germany, and you have the one. And we're not like a big show by any stretch of the imagination, but somebody one time watched a show of us in Dubai. You know what I mean? Like somewhere out there, somebody's watching it.
Yeah,
so it's just really cool. And probably my favorite episodes are just the ones where we're just like shooting from the hip. My favorite quote, if I had to give one, would be whenever we were reviewing the Mandalorian episode where the Quarren are the bad guys, and I said, you should have known they were the bad guys from the balls in the back of their neck. And I remember like trimming that piece out of like an 1.5 hour long podcast and sending it to all my friends and being like, this is the show you should watch. And so that was a lot of fun. And just stuff like Sombrero of the Orient, doing the voices of Star Wars, our favorite 25 voices, and everybody, you know, one of us has to do an impression of every single one. And, you know, I think these review episodes are really cool.
Crawling on the floor behind you.
It's your mom.
It's Mom.
Yeah. She's in town. She had to go to the bathroom, I suppose.
Oh, that is hilarious.
For those of you...
Lord. Wow, she embarrassed herself more than we've ever embarrassed her on the show. For those of you who have the eyes like an eagle, that individual army crawling in the background there, we army crawled out of her. So here we are, all these years later.
I guess she's in town visiting the grandkids, and
God.
Oh my
she had to
God,
go to the bathroom, I guess.
Thanks, Mom. That's more than I could ask for.
But
okay, well, I've got to touch on this. One of my favorite episodes was we were upstairs in my upstairs room recording the Blue Room, and I don't remember what the episode was about. I just remember we were laughing so stupid hard, like we were all like almost in tears, and Josiah busted a blood vessel in his eye. Dude, I've never laughed so hard in my life, but like just the joy and stuff that we get out of this, and just enjoying each other, enjoying Star Wars and stuff like that, I think is really what I admire the most. I think just the bond that the three of us have, you know, we've known each other for ever. Seems like I just between that Star Wars and just the good time that we like to have, I think that's why I love it.
Yeah, definitely the hanging out's the best part.
Sure.
And I think me and Samuel touched on this a couple of weeks ago, but every once in a while we get off the beaten path of what's really our bread and butter, which is joking around about Star Wars, and we start getting too serious in a review. But the best episodes are the ones where we freaking have these crazy rabbit trails. Mom, just walk. Dude, what the heck is she doing, dude?
Is there no other way?
So Samuel's you've never been to my house before because we moved. So
no.
I have a sectional, and there's one way to her. She's sleeping on the couch because the boys don't. We're still buying the freaking bed for the boys. So the sectional cuts off the other way into the living room. Oh my god! I'm leaving that in. I'm not cutting that out. I'm not cutting it out.
That is hilarious.
But yeah.
Like I remember, Mom, I got a piece of Last Galactic Conquest.
I remember one of my favorite episodes. I think the time that you're talking about where we laughed so hard that I busted a blood vessel in my eye was we were talking about wishy-washy Padme, and we were saying, "Hey, I know that we can't kiss and stuff, but what about these?"
Yeah.
Oh god. Oh.
All right, Samuel, give us a favorite.
The lust of the eyes scene, if you will.
Yeah. Give us a couple of highlights, and then we'll get out of here.
I think I've got to put at the top of my list Dirty Hands Dooku. That one sticks with me. Sombrero of the Orient is my legacy. Lids of Star Wars was a lot of fun. Tuskens was a lot of fun. Jawas was a lot of fun. I don't know, all the ones we were just messing around. I'm sure other people will think about the things that we thought were maybe insightful about our reviews or whatever, but I just love talking about the little stupid bullcrap. I think that's just that's what I'm here for, man.
And I also think one of the things that's really cool is we're kind of in uncharted waters now, so it's harder to predict things. But there was a solid 6 months to a year where every week we would say, I think this is going to happen next. And dadgummit, the next week it freaking happened. And I'll never forget when we were watching Mando, we were getting ready for Mando season 2, episode 1. And it was coming out, and we met at Dad's at 2 a.m. because he has that freaking giant projector. And I was cleaning out some stuff, and I found an old copy of the Mandalorian armor by freaking K.W. Jeter, the Bounty Hunter Wars from way back in the day. It's one of the best, worst Star Wars books ever. And I used to use Star Wars trading cards or Star Wars game cards as bookmarks, which is freaking brilliant. I still think it's so cool. And I was going and I was like, oh, wow, this reminds me that I had this stash of Star Wars cards. And so at 10 o'clock the night, we're waiting to go and watch Mando season 2, episode 1, which was so freaking good with the Tuskens and everything.
Yeah.
I'm going through and I'm looking at my cards, and I'm looking at you would have in the bottom right corner, you would have a circle if it was just a regular, everybody had it card, and then a diamond if it was a little bit more rare, and a star if it was more rare, whatever. And I'm going through, and I saw one of a crate dragon, and I was like, it'd be really cool. It would be so cool if Mando goes to Tatooine because he needs help, and who's a better Mandalorian than the guy that was the Mandalorian Legends, Boba Fett? It would be cool if they synced up. And wouldn't it be cool if there was a crate dragon in this episode? And I just put it out there in the freaking universe. And I had people literally texting me the next day hey, did you violate a contract of some sort? Was there an NDA that you just stepped over? And I was like, I swear to God, I just put it out there. I had no freaking idea. I was as shocked as you was at 2 a.m. And so stuff like that has been really, really fun.
How many times have we done that?
Dude,
how many predictions have we put out there?
So many. So many.
Yeah.
I remember thinking, hey, I was like, how is this going to work? Because Han Solo can't be a Force ghost, but I think that the ghost of Han Solo would be the thing to bring Ben back to the light. And then I don't know. I still don't know how it works. Han Solo doesn't give a crap. Harrison Ford's like, I don't know how that works. I don't care. But Han Solo, I guess, just showed up as a vision to Kylo, and I wept like a child in episodes 9 in the theaters. And so
it was loud.
Just craziness.
It was so loud.
Yeah, it was loud. It was. I wept. But just crazy stuff like that. I'm trying to think of other predictions that we had that were just out there.
Thrawn. Thrawn appearing in live
Thrawn
action.
appearing live action.
Yeah. Yeah, we were the Chiss Ascendancy podcast, and it was too, like, I still think sometimes the name is too niche, but I'm like, I'm too hard headed to let it go and start over now that the Ascendancy is on screen.
Anybody else can suck it.
And
they can suck it.
All that craziness. Thrawn was such a big one.
People would be like, "What's the name of your podcast?" And I'll be like, "The Chiss Ascendancy," and they'd be like, "Can you spell that?" And I was like, "Swine."
No.
Chess with an I. Is that easy enough for you? Send it out.
Exactly. I mean, just all kinds of stuff. Like, and then the shorts took off, and it's just all kinds of weird stuff. Just it's a weird world. But man, so many good times. I agree. The Tuscan episode where I said we're gonna call this one, and for whatever reason on Instagram that was a hit. Like, people were posting their story, look at this effing guy, and like that intro and stuff. Just crazy stuff. Having reaching out and getting Mark Thompson of all people to do the opening welcome to Chiss Ascendancy for the podcast was so cool. And I still cherish the fact that I have a file on my computer of Mark Thompson just sitting in his
doing
house.
Takes. I was geeking out.
Just doing takes of Thrawn. And I'm sure he has like a booth setup or whatever at home. But he, like, you know, I don't know, it's weird because he might be listening to this right now, but just hearing him think it through and be like menacing with it, and then more cheerful, and then more inviting, and like different cadence, you know, like uppity, like welcome to the Chiss Ascendancy, and then welcome to the Chiss. And I remember texting you going, please help me because I can't decide.
We agreed though immediately.
You were like,
which
3,
one was better.
And then Adam said 3, and I said, oh, thank God, because I was going to pick 3 no matter what you guys said. And so that was really cool. But you know, to me, like, we're a couple of years in, we're 100 episodes in, we're a couple of million views on YouTube in. And to me, we're just getting started. Like, I still want to go to a celebration with you guys. I still want the 3 of us to go to Galaxy's Edge together. I still want to do a podcast live sometime for people, like people come and see the show. And just, I know those are things that are way out there, but those are on my Chiss bucket list. And so it would just be so cool. I'm so jealous of, I'm not jealous of like the size or the listenership of shows and stuff, but I'm jealous of like the community that some of those shows have, where if they're at Star Wars Celebration, they all go out to like a freaking Fuddruckers after one night, and there's like, you know, 100 people in there. To me, it would be cool if it was us and like 3 or 4 other people. I could care less how many people it is. It would just be cool to be there with Chiss Ascendancy listeners at Star Wars Celebration or at Galaxy's Edge or at Comic-Con or whatever it might be down the road. So that would just be so fun. And you guys are just, I don't know, people do fantasy football and fantasy basketball and do different crap like that, book clubs if you're a weirdo. But they do stuff like that. And it's not about like, yes, it's for the bragging rights and it's for the money and it's for all these things, but really it's because here are 10 dudes that are really, really good friends, and they do fantasy every year because the camaraderie is there. And so getting to do the show with you guys has been the best part of the show, in my opinion. And so, you guys are the best. So, I know it's harder and harder with more and more kids entering the picture and jobs getting crazier and crazier and all that kind of stuff. But
there's got so many.
You've got kids too. They're stuck in your bows. But anyways, it's 12 o'clock, so I'm about to be uncensored here in a second. Man, I just appreciate you guys so much. And here's to the next 100 episodes of the Chiss Ascendancy. Everybody said when Samuel moved, and everybody said when Adam moved away, and everybody said when I moved, and we just got further and further from each other. And everybody said when I had my 4th kid, we're not going freaking anywhere. The Chiss Ascendancy is forever.
We're not going anywhere.
So I want to say, if you're still listening, thank you so much for tuning into the Chiss Ascendancy, and never, ever forget the Force will be with you always.
And even more than that, forever and ever. Always remember, the only family you have here is me.
We'll see you guys next time.
Peace.